Hello, my name is Daniel and I'm a Cheltenham Town intern this season. With it being this time of year again for the Rainbow Laces campaign, I thought it'd be best to reach out to fellow LGBTQ plus people at other EFL clubs. And Exeter City's Craig Bratt was happy to help out. We had a discussion regarding many issues within LGBTQ plus inclusivity and representation in the sports media and football itself.
Craig, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, thanks, Daniel. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing right. I'm doing okay. Just a busy morning at uni, so looking forward to getting into some nice topics. So we will be speaking today about topical issues around LGBTQ plus inclusion and representation in sport. So without no further ado, my first question is, what journey have you gone through to get to where you are today?
I mean, my journey into sports journalism, into this job is, it's the typical one really. I started volunteering at my local club, which was Crawley Town, when I was 15, 16, did a couple of match reports there, had my own blog, and then obviously I went to uni to study sports journalism, had some placements at a couple of clubs. So I worked for Halifax Town and for Fleetwood Town, and then got my degree and then moved back home, which is Crawley. Got an internship there at the club, and then obviously just my career progressed, and now I'm in the role I am here at Exeter, which is media officer, which is obviously a brilliant job to be in. I'm really enjoying. We're a great bunch of people, and it's a great club.
Yeah. Did you graduate with a sports journalism degree?
Yeah. So I got a 2-1 from the University of Huddersfield, which is nice. A really good uni. A bit far up north, it's a bit cold up north, but they gave me plenty of opportunities, and I've learned so much from uni that I can use in my job now.
Yeah, it gives me hope as a sports journalism student that there still are jobs out there for students, even though it's obviously an uncertain time at the moment with the whole pandemic, which is causing cuts and that sort of thing. So yeah, sure. An example to me.
Sure, and there's a lot of clubs at the moment who may need staff but aren't able to hire, and students such as yourself that are looking for placements. I think like you've got now at Cheltenham, there's plenty of jobs, not necessarily paid, but that will get you experience. And I'm personally think experience is as good as a wage, because what you learn from these clubs eventually will lead you into a job eventually.
Yes, I'm fortunate at the moment to be a media intern here at Cheltenham, covering the ladies club. So that's some really valuable experience for myself, I'd say. So obviously you're an example of an LGBTQ plus person making it into the football media industry. Unfortunately, the industry still doesn't have a lot of LGBTQ people coming through. How can we encourage or inspire the future generations of LGBTQ plus sports journalists, in your opinion?
For me, it's all about visibility. If there's examples like me and you out there for people to look up to and to see working in the industry, I think that's a definite positive. Because for me, certainly when I was getting into this line of work, I wasn't really aware of many LGBT people working in football, particularly in men's football. I mean, in women's football, there's quite plenty of openly lesbian players and staff, but particularly in men's football, I just haven't seen it. I probably would have enjoyed having that visibility. So for me now, it's all about being a role model, being visible for the future journalists that want to come through. And you just look on TV now, openly LGBT sports presenters and journalists. There is that coverage now, there is that visibility, and it's a topic that is talked about. So we just have to be us, we have to be authentic, and just be there and be a visible role model for people.
Yeah, I was going to say my sort of opinion on that is quite similar to yours. I think as well, it's all to do with stereotypes as well, and obviously there are still stereotypes that go around in terms of the whole LGBTQ plus people don't like sport. So I guess it's also just trying to educate and change those stereotypes that still exist. I don't know if you agree with that, or is that more?
For sure, and I think you have the supporters groups. Obviously here at Exeter, we've got the Proud Grecians, off the top of my head, you've got the
Mm.
Proud Baggies out, and I think it's Proud Lily Whites for Tottenham. Just off the top of my head, those supporters groups sort of challenge the stereotypes that, you know, we're LGBT, but we do like football. We're not just like, it's all singing, all dancing stereotype that people think of us. You know, and I think those groups are a huge part of any football club if they have one, because it's all about inclusivity. And I think clubs are so quick to, well, and supporters are so quick to jump on anything against racism. Not as quick to jump on homophobia. And I think all discrimination should be treated equally, really. So if there's that visibility of a Pride supporters group, then it's huge, because it shows people that actually you can be LGBT and you can work in sport, play sport, and enjoy sport.
Yeah, I think it's also like the LGBTQ plus inclusive football clubs. Obviously, there are clubs out there like Cheltenham and Exeter who are affiliated with Charlton Athletic themselves. And obviously, if we can see a growth in a lot of LGBT clubs associated with football league clubs, that would be amazing, because it gives people more opportunities in different areas of the country to join an LGBTQ plus club. For example, in Cheltenham, there isn't one at the moment. And back home where I live in Reading, there also isn't one. So I think it's all about, as well, just trying to increase that sort of representation of having an LGBTQ plus inclusive club in as many areas of the UK as possible.
For sure. And in a previous role that I did just before working here, I covered, I spoke a lot with the Bristol Panthers, who are actually affiliated with Bristol City. To have such a huge championship club have an affiliation with an all-inclusive football team is superb. You mentioned there Charlton Invicta. You've got, I mean, just in Exeter alone, we've got Isker Apollo, who they're not affiliated with the club, but we work very closely with them, particularly on Rainbow Laces Week and on Football Homophobia weekend as well. We have them, they parade around the pitch. It's huge, particularly for those people who might be unsure about their sexuality or don't want to be open about it and want to play sport. They can join this inclusive football team and know that, you know, everyone's in the same boat as them. Everyone, you know, is in the same situation, and you know they can be themselves and not have that worry about whether they'll be discriminated against or teased, or you know, all the different types of discrimination that we see.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. So moving on to another topic. So obviously no player has come out in the top flights of English football since the late Justin Fashanu in the 90s. From the media's point of view, do you think we're ready for another player to come out? I mean, look at how they've treated Rashford and Greenwood recently, with the whole story that they've been producing about them.
I get asked this question a lot, and it's one I find difficult to answer, because the media want to have you believe that we're ready, but the media themselves are the reason that we don't. If you go down into, I think the Northern League, there's a player called Liam Davis who played for Cleethorpes. He's an openly gay non-league player, and his reception was brilliant, but no one knew who he was. He was a part-time footballer, owns a cafe, has his other job, you know. The local press were really supportive of him, but then you've got constantly the Twitter account, the I'm a Gay Footballer Twitter account. Yeah. You've got people, you've got it's almost like a media witch hunt. They want to find one and they won't stop until they do. Because deep down in my heart, I know that if a player did come out, it would be fine. And, you know,
even with opposition fans, would they not target that as a weakness?
I think we're all in the same boat though, because I know that if I can be openly gay and work in football and do social media and do the club's media, why would I be treated any different to a player? Especially with my own. And you know, is it another thing for, if you look at opposition fans, is it something that they could target? Yeah, but at the same time, sadly, players are still targeted for the colour of their skin. They might be targeted for having, you know, a girly haircut. It's something that needs it needs to happen, because the longer the witch hunt goes on, the longer it's not going to happen. I think earlier in the year I got asked this question. I said we're probably another 5 years away, because until the media stop pushing for it, it's not.
But do you think the way the media changes is by having better representation in terms of LGBTQ journalists like John Holmes or your boyfriend Jack Murley to cover these sort of stories, because they understand the sort of what a gay or bisexual player would go through, instead of like a straight cis white man who might not understand the severity of what they're saying?
Sadly, I mean, you mentioned John and Jack, they're doing this now and it's not changing. No matter how many people do great stuff, there's always exactly the same amount on the other side trying to bring it down. And I'm concerned, actually. My biggest concern is the way it's going, the way that Justin Fashanu was treated and what happened to him and how he sadly ended his life. It wouldn't surprise me if it happened again, because the media want us to believe that it's going to happen and it'll be okay, but the media are the ones that are making it not okay.
Right.
So it's catch-22. It's it's such a difficult one, and as you can tell, it's something that gets me quite worked up, because I really do know, especially at the lower level, if it happened, League 1, League 2, if a player came out, I don't think it would be an issue. I really don't. But, you look at the Premier League with all the global brands, and just off the top, I'm just going to say, look at Man City, who have got a massive Arabic backing, where, from a country where you can be arrested and be killed for being gay. How would they react if a Man City player came out? Would they pull all their sponsorship? Would the player get torrents of abuse from overseas? Would he, clubs, I think some clubs, especially the big Premier League clubs, if they knew there was a sponsorship riding on it, the fact that it was a gay player, it's a disaster. It's a disaster, because it's almost like they'd be forcing the player to not do it because they'd lose all that sponsorship from the Middle East. That's a different
That's
story.
a great point. But for players, say sponsors, do you not think more sponsors would want to would take advantage of that player in the nicest way possible, in terms of they're the first openly gay player, we'll sponsor them because we know we're going to get a lot of money from it? Could you see it in that sort of sense as well, from the sponsorship sort of side?
That's a possibility. It is a possibility, and I know that but at the same time, I've seen stories this year from the women's game where Gilly Flaherty, the West Ham captain, I recall reading a story that she couldn't get sponsorship because she was openly lesbian. So it's going to be the individual companies, I think, that if they want to exploit a player for their sexuality to for a PR positive, then it will happen. It will, because I don't have any faith in the media or sponsorships that means it will happen.
I mean, hopefully the next generation of sports journalists that do come through there are a few like myself who will try and increase representation. Hopefully that can somehow make some sort of difference. But like you said, like John Holmes is already in the industry, and it's still people like him. It's still not stopping what's being put out there still. So I sort of get your point there as well.
For every good news story, there's two bad news stories, unfortunately.
So if a situation arose at one of our clubs where a player or just someone around the club, like a club member of staff, wanted to come out, how can we help with that process to make it as stress-free as possible, would you say?
Well, I mean, us being ourselves and being open is the main thing we can do, because I'm around the club here at Exeter, I'm quite open. It's no secret. Players know, staff know. I feel like me being me and being enough in this environment would be enough that if they came to me, I would be able to help them. But I think this is just me personally. I'm a bit rubbish about, how to help people, because I've had it quite easy in terms of now society is just, if you tell someone you're gay, 9 times out of 10, it's fine. What did you have for tea last night? It's sort of, you just brush it aside. But I guess you just talk to them. For if a player or a member of staff came to me and said, look, I need to tell you something, you need to sort of manage it. You say, right, do you want to tell people? Do you want to keep it a secret? How does it make you feel? And especially if it was a player, you'd have to sit down and say, look, if you said anything, you'd be the first. Do you want all that spotlight? Do you want all that coverage? And that you're going to have the press on you for weeks, that sort of thing.
Do you think the way around it from the player's sort of point of view is that if there are a few players out there, maybe if they came out together, it'd make the process easier, or would that just give the media more sort of fire to sort of report on stories the way they do currently?
Yeah, I mean, it's been hinted before in the tabloids, hasn't it? You've had it on the front page, you've had sort of 5 Premier League stars are going to come together and do it at the same time. But I mean, whether it's 1, whether it's 5, if it's 1 person, all the abuse will be fired at the 1. If it's 5, the abuse will be split 5 ways. It's like I've said, for every positive thing, there's 2 negative things, I think, in this situation, which is sad. Because football is ready, but the media aren't, unfortunately. Take the media away, and I think there'd be plenty of gay footballers, because it's an inclusive environment. People have this stereotype of big masculine footballers, but I spend my week around some of these players here. They're emotional, they've got feelings, you see sides of them that you might not necessarily see on pitch. They're just like me and you.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because you look at America, and you got an openly gay player there in Colin Martin, and obviously they've had a few problems, but it's not been to the point where he wants to stop playing.
Yeah, and I think I've said this before, that America is so far ahead of us. This is an America where for the last 4 years you've had a divisive president that's been openly transphobic, he's very homophobic. This is a country, where it's no secret that they're so divided in terms of, who's liberal and who's really conservative. And it does surprise me, because there's such vitriol in conservatism over there, but, it really does surprise me. But at the same time, you've got people like Landon Donovan, when Colin Martin had that abuse directive and they all walked off the pitch. Part of me thinks it's just the British way that we wouldn't do that. We just pucker up and deal with it. Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy.
It's a hard one to talk about. It does surprise me that,
we both live in West. The thing is, we both like America and the UK are quite similar in terms of we're both Western. We both have Western cultures, but yet they're so far ahead. Like, it doesn't make sense at all. Obviously, And I mean, what isn't talked about enough, I think, is in the UK we've got an openly gay referee, Ryan Atkin. Yeah.
And we spoke. I'm sure you spoke to him before. I've certainly spoken to him before, and he sort of just, he's not really received much homophobia, particularly towards him. He's heard it between players but to him personally, it isn't. I think players, in the heat of the moment, they probably say things they don't mean. They probably say homophobic terms as an insult to the opposition player who's just tackled them. But
that's not acceptable, isn't it?
Towards him, it's hard one. If we can see the referees are okay, why can't the players be?
Yeah, no, I agree with it. So statistics from Stonewall have suggested that 7 in 10 people have witnessed homophobia at a football game. Have you witnessed it either as a fan or even in your role? Obviously, you said you've had it quite easy so far, so I'm guessing not. But even on social media, have you ever experienced it? And how was it dealt with at the time, if you have experienced it?
Yeah, look, I'm quite active on social media, both on a club side and a personal side. And yeah, look, 2 years ago now, when I was working at another club, I did get one of the fans sent me a homophobic message. I brushed it off.
Did you reply? Did you reply to that?
Yeah, look, I was quite open. I just said, look, I was quite sarcastic, and I replied, and I just said, "Oh, thanks. Nice to see we're all supporting each other at this club," because it was one of our fans. This wasn't at Exeter, but this was a previous club, and It was for me. Like I said, I often brush abuse off with sarcasm. It's just the way I am. It's my way of dealing with it.
Some people can take it emotional, like it can hurt them. Like I'm quite an emotional person, so I probably couldn't brush it off.
Because it was someone I knew who we'd previously not got on in the past.
Okay.
It was directed more to me, as it wasn't intended to be homophobic. It just used a homophobic term. I wasn't bothered by it. Look, the club saw it. I didn't direct their attention to it. One of my colleagues saw it and took it higher, and that fan was banned for the rest of the season. That isn't the course of action I would have personally taken, due to the fact that I know who the guy is, and I know that this is just his manner, and it's, a ban to the end of the season wasn't going to change him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I've had homophobic tweets before, but like I said, my way of dealing with it is quite easy. What is pleasing to me more than anything is that in all my years, I've been watching football all season, every season for about 10 years now, and I've heard very little homophobic abuse. You hear the odd chant, the odd comment from, usually it's older male fans, but I hear that and I think, do you know what? I don't think they know what they're saying. I don't think that what they're saying, they realise now that it's derogatory, because it's particularly these older fans, they're saying things that when they were my age, when they were younger, it was commonplace, when the country was divided racially, when homosexuality was illegal, and I just don't, it's,
I think a lot of it happens on social media. I think the power, like the fact that you can create any profile and not have, do you know what I mean? You can just hide behind a blank picture and just fire at anything. This is the same with racism as well. It gives the opportunity for these people to actually just exploit people in that way, and it's not very nice. I think social media needs to do something more, 100%.
I think what's worth, look, social media is a minefield. So you get so much abuse on social media for saying one stupid thing, but it's worth remembering, in the UK, only 10% of the UK are on Twitter, because that's where Twitter comes from. So every time I see tons and tons of abuse aimed at one person or aimed at an organisation, I remember every single bad comment, that's only 10%. It's not even 10% of the country agree or think this or are vocal about it. So, look, as a proportion, in terms of how many people on Twitter and the abuse they get, it looks bad. And it is bad. It is bad. But it's worth remembering that Twitter isn't the view of the nation. Twitter is the view of 10% of the nation. Yeah.
No, so say fast forward to now, say at Exeter, either yourself or a fan experienced homophobic abuse, either on a match day, or probably most likely on a match day if it happened. Do you think the club, how do you think the club would deal with it? Do you think they would really investigate into it like a lot, or like what they do with racist stuff that happens, racist abuse in games? Would you reckon that's going to be the similar sort of thing if that happened to a fan at like Exeter or even Cheltenham?
Zero tolerance here.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got the a rainbow laces display. We've got a whole bit about Justin Fashanu here, football homophobia weekend. Zero tolerance, Whether it was on Twitter or in person, if someone said something to me or another fan, that'd be it. That we clamped down. And I know they would, because I know, you know, we've got our own LGBT supporters group. We work closely with Exeter Pride, you know.
Yeah.
Our MP in Exeter is openly gay. It's zero tolerance. And I'm confident that they'd come down hard on the culprit. Hopefully, you know, in my time here, for as long as I'm here, it never happens. And I'll make sure I go out of my way to be visible and put forward the cause, and make sure that, you know, as a club, we're doing everything we can to support our openly gay, our openly LGBT fans, staff, and, you know, for all we know, a player as well. We've got to do all we can to make sure that we're inclusive.
It's really good to hear that. I know it's really good that the whole zero tolerance, the punishment would be removing season ticket or ban for life. That sort of thing needs to happen, I'd say.
Yeah, I hope every club's the same. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure some of them would treat things differently. You know, I wouldn't. You know, if someone in the stand was homophobe to me, I wouldn't be calling for a lifetime ban, because I know that, you know, I'd want them to be I wouldn't want the number one thing in their life taken away from them. I just want them to learn. I just want them to know that what they said isn't okay. I want education, and I want them to, the next time they come back to the ground, it's not okay.
Yeah.
But I believe in our fan base here, and I know that most of, if not all of them, are superb people who are inclusive, and certainly would not say anything derogatory to one of their own.
Nice. That's really good to hear. So moving on to like a nicer note, what has been a highlight of your sports journalism career so far? What's been your main highlight?
I mean, for me, I've got a couple. I mean, firstly, when I worked at Fleetwood, when I was at uni, as my placement, I was lucky enough that they had quite a good FA Cup run. They got Leicester. And my first ever experience of a Premier League press box was in the replay at the King Power. You know, I was still a student, and I was out there reporting in a Premier League stadium with the full, you know, I had journalists from the Times and the Athletic and all sorts around me.
Surreal.
And these big names that have got millions of followers on Twitter were a couple of seats along from me in the press box, and I thought, actually, do you know what, this is where I've wanted to get to. This is where I've made it now. But more recently, just getting the job at Exeter, you know, getting a fairly important media role at a club that is so close to its community, because I'm, you know, coming from where I come from and supporting Crawley and working for my hometown club, I know what it's like to have that community feel in a club, and Exeter's the same. And I know how much this little club means to the supporters and means to the city. And while the fans can't be here, doing all we can to bring the game to them on social media and on the website, doing all we can to make them feel at home, if you like. I'm quite proud of that we've been able to offer the fans something. You know, we've got our pre-match show that we do every week. You know, it's important to the fan, because I knew if I was a fan and couldn't go to the game, I'd be bored. I'd find it so hard, and I'm in a really fortunate position that I'm able to go to the games. So while I'm here, I want to share that experience with the supporters, and, you know, small sort of media team here, and bringing Exeter City into the living rooms of the fans and on social media. You know, that's important. I know that if I was from the outside looking in, I'd think, yeah, they're doing a good job, and I really hope we are, and I really hope they are enjoying it, and the feedback suggests that we are. So,
yeah, for me, I would say, probably, other than getting this internship here covering Cheltenham Town ladies, because I'm a massive fan of women's football, it's been amazing so far. I think just being able to network with all my fellow LGBTQ people like yourself, I think that's just given me the confidence to realise that there are people like myself in the industry. Because I think when I started like the course, I didn't really know too much, And now with my final year project, I'm doing about LGBTQ inclusion in sport and the positives and the positive steps we're making forward. I think just being able to like make that network and the contacts I've made, I think that's really beneficial, especially like when you say about getting your first job, like getting that experience, using your contacts. I think for me that's been like a massive sort of thing. But to end off with, because I know you've got a meeting in a bit, with Back on Football It Matters, how do you feel Exeter's season's going to go? Because obviously Cheltenham are playing Exeter on the 5th of December, the Rainbow Laces game, so we'll be playing you guys soon.
Don't like answering this. Look, sadly we've just had our 13-match unbeaten run ended last weekend, but look, the fact we've been on a 13-match unbeaten run shows the strength in our squad. And we've got some brilliant young players, we've got some brilliant experienced players. You know, we'll where we are at the moment, we'll be. I think we'll be up there. I'm not going to make a prediction about where we'll finish, but you know, for me, obviously, it'd be fantastic if we finish in the promotion zone. But look, hopefully, if we can keep up where we are at the moment, and keep up with the, you know, Newport running away with it at the moment. If we can you know, there's no reason why we can't be up there at the end of the season. And that we're still. You know, at the time of speaking to you now, we're still in the FA Cup, we're still in the Papa John's Trophy, so you know, let's see how far we can get in those as well. And, I think obviously you mentioned that you're with the Cheltenham ladies. Obviously they've got extra in the FA Cup.
I know.
Hopefully the women pull off a good result there.
I'm hoping we do. No, but obviously that Rainbow Laces game obviously coming up 5th of December, that's going to be a big game, because obviously Cheltenham Town men's team and Exeter, they're both doing really well, so that could be a big game in terms of just momentum as well, just the winning momentum. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to make predictions for it yet, but
no, I mean, I think we've got 3 more games before then. Look, we've been pretty good away from home this year, but I know Cheltenham have been fairly good at home, so you know, something's got to give, I think. Like I said, with 3 more games to go, I couldn't make a prediction just yet. You know, we could win all 3, we could lose all 3. You could win all 3 or lose all 3. You know, so we've seen the league already this season. It's so bonkers that anyone can beat anyone.
It's insane.
It wouldn't be out of the question if we had a random 5-4 the way it's gone. So look, let's wait and see.
Well, I look forward to seeing you on the Rainbow Laces game. Hopefully a Cheltenham win will occur on the day. But yeah,
yeah, I hope it's not. But look.
Definitely.
Yeah, and let's just, you know, celebrate the cause while we've got the chance. You know, our Rainbow Laces week is the week after, so we'll do what we can. You keep doing what you can, and let's just celebrate the opportunity that we've got.
Yeah, thank you. Like we need to celebrate obviously when we have the time. Obviously for our game it's the 5th, like I said. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today, Craig. Really appreciate it. And good luck for your game tonight.
No problem, Daniel. Same for you. Well, thanks for this chat.
Once again, I'd like to thank Exeter City's Craig Bratt for joining me for the special Rainbow Laces feature. Rainbow Laces to me is all about sharing stories and opinions on certain matters to help us move forward in society, and more specifically football. If you liked our discussion, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, and comment if there's anything that you found interesting in our discussion or any points that you want to talk about. They'll be all very welcomed. Thank you.